Welcome to the Deep Dive by 5W Media. Today we're venturing into a truly captivating listener suggestion. The mysterious and, spooky ghosts of Tennessee.
Our mission in this deep dive, well, it's to explore a collection of fascinating sources, really dig into them, to bring you the most compelling tales of paranormal activity across the volunteer state. We'll be looking at, haunted hotels steeped in history, battlefields echoing with the past.
Theaters, too, right? And even private homes.
Exactly. Theaters with lingering audiences, private homes with their own spectral stories. We want to understand the sort of eerie side of Tennessee history through eyewitness accounts and local legends.
You've shared a wealth of articles and excerpts detailing, just numerous haunted locations and ghostly encounters. Consider us your guides as we extract the most intriguing nuggets and try to understand the stories that fuel these reports of the supernatural in Tennessee. Okay, let's dive in. Starting with a place marked by a profound historical mystery, the Meriwether Lewis National Monument.
Indeed. This quiet site marks where Meriwether Lewis, the famous explorer, met his end at Grinder's Stand back in 1809. And what's so compelling, even now, is the lingering question mark over his death. Was it suicide? A conclusion many historians lean towards. Or was there something more to it?
That uncertainty is definitely part of what makes this location so evocative.
Yeah.
We have Mrs. Grinder's account, right? Lewis behaving strangely the evening before, pacing, talking to himself.
Yeah, and then came the gunshots in the night. Some accounts even suggest she heard him cry out, perhaps saying it was so hard to die or maybe pleading for help.
Yet she didn't intervene. It just leaves you wondering, doesn't it?
Exactly. That inaction, combined with the lack of, definitive evidence at the scene, has always fueled speculation of foul play. It's a historical enigma, and even the inscription on the monument itself acknowledges the tragic and mysterious nature of his death. It's a story that stays with you.
And here's where it gets really intriguing. Visitors to this isolated spot have reported a palpable sense of unease, like an unusual energy in the air. Some have even claimed to hear the faint sound of a water dipper scraping against a container, perhaps a mundane sound from his final night, or that whispered phrase, "so hard to die," almost carried on the wind.
What's fascinating about these reports is how they seem to resonate with the historical ambiguity, and the possible circumstances of Lewis's final moments. It makes you consider, as some visitors do, if there's a lingering echo of his experience, a sense that something remains unresolved. Could these reported phenomena be tied to that enduring mystery?
From a place of national historical significance tinged with mystery, let's turn our attention to a location deeply scarred by the immense tragedy of the Civil War. Carnton Plantation in Franklin.
Carnton. It holds such a significant place in Civil War history, particularly after the Battle of Franklin in 1864. One of the bloodiest engagements of the war. The McGavock home was transformed into a Confederate field hospital.
Just imagine the scene.
Exactly. In just 5 brutal hours, thousands of soldiers were killed, wounded, or went missing. Carrie McGavock and her family bravely opened their home to the wounded, offering what comfort they could in the midst of, unimaginable suffering.
Her compassion in the face of such horror is truly remarkable. Our sources mention that her clothing was saturated with blood by the end of that single night.
Incredible. And even today, bloodstains are said to be visible on the original wooden floors. A stark and visceral reminder of the immense human cost of the battle.
Chilling.
Tragically, nearly 1,500 Confederate soldiers who perished either at Carnton or in the immediate vicinity were later buried on the plantation grounds. This makes it the largest private Confederate cemetery in the South. Given this history of intense suffering and loss, it's perhaps not surprising that Carnton has earned a reputation as, one of the most haunted locations in Tennessee.
The sheer volume and variety of reported phenomena are quite striking. We hear of apparitions of Confederate generals sort of forever pacing the porches.
Right, and the spectral figures of children peering out from the windows.
And even glimpses of Carrie McGavock herself, often described in a pink gown, gazing towards the final resting place of so many soldiers.
If we consider the context, these visual reports seem deeply connected to the key individuals and the tragic events that unfolded at Carnton. The generals, perhaps still bearing the weight of command, the children, innocent lives touched by the war's devastation, and Carrie, eternally linked to the suffering she witnessed and the fallen she cared for. It raises the question of whether intense emotional experiences can leave an imprint on a place.
But it's not just what people claim to see. There are also numerous accounts of sounds. The thunder of charging horses, the terrifying din of gunfire and cannons.
Unexplained moans and sighs seemingly rising from the cemetery.
Yes, and some have even reported seeing apparitions of Confederate soldiers silently walking among the graves. It's as if the very echoes of the battle linger in the atmosphere.
This leads us to consider the idea of residual haunting, the theory that intense events can somehow leave behind an energy or imprint that replays over time. The sheer scale of the Battle of Franklin and the immense loss of life at Carnton could have, according to this idea, created an environment where these echoes persist.
The reported hauntings at Carnton aren't limited to the Civil War era, though. There's a local story of a young girl who was murdered before the war, allegedly by a rejected suitor, and she's said to sweep the floors at dusk.
Huh.
We also hear of a woman floating across the back porch in October, spectral soldiers in the fields, and a Confederate general pacing the front porch in the fall. It seems certain times of the year might see increased activity, perhaps linked to anniversaries or seasonal changes.
The mention of autumn as a particularly active time is interesting, especially considering the Battle of Franklin took place in November. In folklore, there's often a belief that the veil between the living and the dead thins around certain significant dates or times of year.
We also have reports of a mischievous spirit that moves panes of glass.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and the eerie image of a floating head, said to be that of the Civil War-era cook, accompanied by the sounds of her working in the kitchen.
Wow. A floating head.
And a list goes on. Sightings of a lady in white, a lone soldier, a young girl with brown hair, and even Native American spirits. It sounds like Carnton has quite the spectral community.
The reported presence of Native American spirits suggests a deeper history to the land itself, predating the Civil War, which might also contribute to the site's overall energy. It reminds us that many of these historic locations have layers of stories to tell.
One particularly vivid account comes from a visitor who had an ancestor who fought in the Battle of Franklin. He claimed to have seen the ghostly silhouettes of 2 Civil War soldiers.
And then witnessed a horse vanish into thin air right before his eyes.
Exactly. That kind of direct personal experience, especially when tied to a family connection to the past, often strengthens belief in these phenomena. It's a very personal and unsettling experience to contemplate. And let's not overlook the mention of Carnton's limestone foundation, which some believe amplifies spiritual energy. That's a detail you don't hear every day.
It's a fascinating point. In folklore and some paranormal beliefs, certain geological materials are thought to possess properties that can either attract or amplify paranormal activity. Limestone, with its crystalline structure, is one such material in some of these beliefs.
Shifting gears and heading north to Knoxville, the University of Tennessee campus appears to have its own share of ghostly residents, stemming from its long history that began way back in 1794 as Blount College.
Indeed. One of the most well-known campus ghosts is said to be Sophronia Strong, often called Sophie, who reportedly haunts Strong Hall. Interestingly, this building stands on the land where her former home once stood, so the connection is quite direct.
And she makes her presence known around her birthday, right, February 17th.
That's the story, yeah.
Sophie sounds like a spirit with a playful side, known for locking bathroom and dorm room doors. But our sources also suggest she dislikes conflict, and might even appear during arguments in an attempt to, quell them. A peace-loving prankster, perhaps.
That combination of mischievousness and a desire for peace is an interesting element in these stories, isn't it? Adds a touch of personality to the reported phenomena.
The campus also has strong ties to the Civil War. The area known as the Hill and the Laurel and 15th apartments are reportedly haunted by the spirits of Union soldiers killed during the Battle of Fort Sanders, which actually took place right there on campus.
Right on campus. And Blount Hall, before it was demolished, also had stories of Union soldier ghosts. The fact that such a significant battle occurred directly on the university grounds likely contributes to these enduring reports. It's another example of how intense historical events can leave a lasting impression on a location.
Hoskins Library has a more scholarly kind of haunting, with the reported ghost of a former director.
And there's also a spirit known as Evening Primrose, who is said to be accompanied by the comforting and very specific smell of cornbread. That's certainly a unique ghostly signature.
It is. Phantom smells are a recurring theme in ghost lore, often linked to the habits or preferences of the deceased. The smell of cornbread creates a very sensory and perhaps even nostalgic element to this particular haunting.
Reese Hall is said to be haunted by spirits who are not at peace, and this is potentially attributed to the building's location on what may have been a Native American burial ground.
Once again, we see this idea of layered history potentially contributing to paranormal activity.
Exactly. Disturbing burial sites is a common trigger for reports of ghostly activity in many cultures and belief systems.
Other spectral residents of UT include Fanny, a theatrical ghost who reportedly haunted the old science building before it was torn down.
And Bonita, the beloved pet dog of the former owners of Tyson Hall. Even now, some claim to hear her barking behind the building. It seems even our animal companions can leave a spectral trace.
These more personal hauntings, like that of a former pet, offer a different perspective compared to the grander historical narratives. They suggest that emotional bonds and the events of everyday life can also leave their mark.
Let's now journey east to Chattanooga and the Reed House Hotel, a place that has welcomed guests for over 160 years. The original structure, the old Crutchfield House, served as a Union hospital during the Civil War.
Before the current grand Georgian-style hotel was built in 1926.
Right. The Reed House has a long and eventful history, which often makes such locations fertile ground for ghost stories. And as our sources highlight, most of the unexplained occurrences seem to center around Room 311.
Room 311 definitely has a chilling reputation. The prevailing theory is that it's haunted by the spirit of Annalisa Netherly, who stayed in that room back in the 1920s.
And the tragic story goes that she was murdered there, allegedly in the bathtub, by a jealous lover or husband.
And the accounts say her head was nearly severed. That's a truly horrific tale.
It is, and the violent nature of her alleged death seems to be a key element in the reports of her restless spirit. Guests have claimed that she is particularly angered by men, especially those who smoke.
Which some speculate might be connected to her alleged killer.
Right. That's the thought.
There are numerous reports of eerie apparitions and unexplained sounds throughout the hotel, and the 9th floor seems to be another area with frequent activity. It suggests Annalisa might not be the only spirit lingering within those historic walls.
And the hotel has even embraced its spooky reputation, offering a spirit package for brave guests seeking a first-hand paranormal experience.
It's fascinating how these legends can become so intertwined with a location's identity and even become a draw for visitors, isn't it?
Absolutely. Now let's travel west to Memphis and delve into what was once known as Memphis's most famous ghost story, the tale of Pink Lizzie.
Ah, yes, Pink Lizzie.
This story dates back to 1871 when a 13-year-old student at Brinkley Female College, Clara Robertson, reported seeing the apparition of an 8-year-old girl in a faded pink dress while she was practicing the piano.
And this wasn't just a one-off sighting, right?
No, the young ghost reportedly returned multiple times, even going so far as to point out locations where treasures were supposedly buried. Eventually, through what was described as a trance, the ghost identified herself as Lizzie Davidson, the daughter of Colonel Davidson, who originally built the mansion where the college was located.
Wow, pointing out treasure, that's different.
It's a compelling narrative of a child ghost attempting to communicate and even reveal secrets. The fact that this story was documented in the local newspaper at the time adds a layer of historical intrigue.
While Pink Lizzie might not be as widely remembered today, Memphis now boasts another prominent ghostly resident, Orpheum Mary.
Yes, Mary is said to make her presence known at the Orpheum Theatre, which opened in 1928 on the site of the Grand Opera House that tragically burned down in 1923. She's most often associated with seat C5.
C5. Okay.
Yeah. Interestingly, theater staff originally called her Eurydice, but later, through paranormal investigations, she was identified as Mary, a 12-year-old girl who tragically died in 1921 after being struck by a streetcar near the theater.
So her connection to the location actually predates the current Orpheum building.
Exactly. What's also notable is that Mary's ghost is generally considered to be quite benign. She's named to sit in her favorite seat, sometimes run up and down the aisles, and occasionally engage in harmless pranks.
A playful ghost, then.
Seems like it. She even has a consistent description: a white dress, black stockings, and long brown hair worn in braids. She sounds almost like a permanent, if unseen, member of the Orpheum's audience. And a paranormal investigation conducted back in 1979 reportedly identified 6 other spirits within the theater, so Mary certainly has company.
That reinforces the idea that older public spaces, particularly those with a history of significant events, can become gathering places for residual energy or spirits. Let's journey back to Nashville now and focus on a rather dramatic account from the Hermitage, Andrew Jackson's historic former home. This particular story comes from an 1893 publication detailing the preservation of the Hermitage. 2 women from the Ladies' Hermitage Association were staying in the then-deserted house.
According to this account, the two women experienced what they described as terrific noises at the same time on 2 consecutive nights.
Terrific noises? Like what?
Well, these included the sounds of items being thrown around in the pantry, the clanking of chains, and even the distinct sound of a war horse and what seemed like military forces rushing through the hall. It's quite the auditory experience they recounted.
Wow, that's intense.
And just as suddenly as the noises began, they ceased, leading the women to firmly believe they had encountered ghosts, and they even speculated that it might have been the spirit of Andy Jackson himself.
Given Jackson's prominent military background and his strong personality, it's maybe not surprising that any reported paranormal activity might be attributed to him. The description of a war horse and military sounds certainly aligns with his well-known history.
Precisely.
Another prominent Nashville mansion with a reputation for being haunted is Belmont Mansion, said to be visited by the ghost of Adelicia Ackland, the woman known as the Mistress of Belmont. She was famous for hosting lavish parties, but also experienced a great deal of personal tragedy throughout her life.
Yes, Adelicia faced immense personal loss, burying 2 husbands and 6 of her children who died young. Her 3rd marriage also ended in separation. She eventually moved out of the mansion in 1884 and passed away a few years later, but it seems a part of her might still linger there.
How so? What do people report?
Well, security guards and students over the years have reported seeing her ghostly form moving with a worried demeanor around the mansion and its grounds. There's even a story of her spectral figure being captured in a photograph reflected in a mirror.
The reported worry in her ghostly appearances could be linked to the significant personal tragedies she endured, perhaps a lingering concern for her lost children or the preservation of her beloved home.
That makes sense.
At Belmead Mansion, also in Nashville, there's a more specific and recurring event that has been documented. In June of 1984, the night alarm in the nursery inexplicably triggered 5 nights in a row.
5 nights?
Yeah, always occurring between 3.40 and 3.47 a.m., and no cause was ever found. Employees at the time speculated that it might be the ghost of General William G. Harding, whose infant daughter tragically died in the mansion back in July of 1848.
Huh. The remarkably consistent timing of the alarm triggers led to the theory that it might somehow be linked to the time of the child's passing or a period of intense grief for Harding.
The idea of a parent's ghost checking on their child across the veil of time is quite poignant. It speaks to the enduring nature of parental love and grief, even extending into the realm of the paranormal, according to these accounts.
It really does. Nashville's vibrant music scene also has its own share of ghostly tales, particularly surrounding the iconic Ryman Auditorium and the legendary Tootsie's Orchid Lounge right across the alley.
Of course, the Ryman.
The Ryman, the original home of the Grand Ole Opry, boasts a rich and storied history, and with that comes numerous ghost stories. One of the most well-known is the ghost of Captain Thomas Ryman, who built it originally as the Union Gospel Tabernacle. He's said to have strong opinions on the performances.
A spectral critic.
Exactly. He's known to stomp and create noise if he disapproves of an act. Imagine having a spectral critic in the audience. They say he was particularly displeased with the Metropolitan Opera's production of Carmen and the play Tobacco Road.
Then we have the tale of the Gray Man, a ghostly Confederate soldier who is said to quietly observe rehearsals from the balcony before vanishing into thin air when approached.
And there's the more recent legend of Hank Williams Sr., who apparently returns to perform for the staff as they're locking up for the night, only to then head over to Tootsie's across the alley, a true embodiment of the Nashville spirit.
That's amazing.
Isn't it? And Lisa Marie Presley even recounted an experience at the Ryman where a dressing room door stubbornly refused to open after one of her performances until she distinctly heard her father Elvis's unmistakable laugh, at which point the door finally swung open.
Wow. It seems the legends of music truly do leave a lasting impression, perhaps in more ways than one. It certainly adds another layer of mystique to these already legendary Nashville venues.
Definitely. Now, let's head back to Knoxville and the Bijou Theatre. Its history dates all the way back to 1815 when it first served as a hotel under various names.
During the Civil War, it even functioned as a hospital.
Right. Later, it transitioned into the old Homestead Hotel before becoming Jake Wells' Bijou Theatre in 1908. It even had a period as an adult movie house, and the hotel floors above reportedly served as a brothel before the building fell into disrepair.
Faithfully, it was saved from demolition and reopened in 1977, operating as a beloved theater since 2006.
With such a varied past, it's no surprise that the Bijou is considered a hotbed for potential paranormal activity. Reports include the unexplained flickering of lights and doors swinging open on the fourth floor, which was the former brothel area.
And the ghost of General Sanders, who tragically died in the hotel during the Civil War, is said to still roam the theater.
Yes. Musicians have even recounted asking about a guy in the uniform with brass buttons they've seen in the unused third-floor balcony, completely unaware of his historical identity.
It's fascinating how the details of the apparition, the specific mention of the uniform, aligns with the historical figure.
It really is.
There are also claims of a persistent spirit in the second-floor women's restroom that is known to tug on people's clothing.
Oh, creep.
And staff have reported hearing disembodied voices and the sounds of crashes coming from the rigging area high above the stage. Even the theater director has had personal experiences, including having her cardigan inexplicably tugged and hearing a disembodied voice clearly say, "Get out."
Get out. Wow. It sounds like a very active and perhaps even territorial location. The fact that those working there have had personal encounters definitely adds a compelling element to the Bijou's haunted reputation.
And the claim by paranormal investigators of around 20 different spirits residing within the theater suggests a very lively afterlife backstage.
20 spirits. Moving south, the Old South Pittsburgh Hospital, which operated from 1959 to 1998, has earned the reputation of being Tennessee's most haunted hospital, and the reports of paranormal activity there are quite intense and varied.
Yeah, I've heard about this place.
Visitors and investigators have reported encountering dark, shadowy figures, hearing disembodied voices, and experiencing a wide range of other classic paranormal phenomena. Specific entities mentioned include a towering 7-foot shadow figure believed to be the lingering presence of a past surgeon on the third floor.
A 7-foot shadow surgeon. Yikes.
The playful spirit of a toddler often heard or seen on the second floor, a female nurse who is said to still make her rounds, and the presence of an elderly woman.
The image of a tall, shadowy figure and the thought of a ghostly child are particularly unsettling. Hospitals, by their very nature, are places where intense emotions, trauma, and life-and-death situations occur frequently. Some believe that these circumstances can create a higher concentration of residual energy or attract spirits.
Makes sense.
Let's take a turn now and delve into some more personal and anecdotal accounts of ghostly encounters from Reddit's Rappalachia. This offers a fascinating look into more localized folklore and individual experiences with the supernatural.
These personal narratives often have a strong connection to the specific places and cultural landscape of the Appalachian region, as we've seen hinted at in some of our other sources. The Reddit thread provides a really rich collection of these localized tales and beliefs.
One user shared a rather classic eerie encounter experienced by their mom and aunt at Carter's Chapel, a church and graveyard that was later flooded by the creation of Yatesville Lake. They recounted finding an abandoned poker game with money still on the table.
Okay.
After picking up some of the cash, they felt a sudden, inexplicable breeze, and when they looked back, the poker game was once again perfectly undisturbed. That sends a shiver down your spine.
Whoa. The sudden, unexplained breeze is a common motif in ghost stories, often interpreted as a sign of a nearby spiritual presence. And the undisturbed reappearance of the poker game adds a layer of mystery, suggesting perhaps that the earthly realm was briefly interrupted.
The thread also brings up some classic Appalachian folklore figures like Skin Tom and the Talipo creature.
Ah, yes. Stories that have been passed down through generations, often serving to both entertain and perhaps instill a bit of caution. These folktales often reflect the unique environment and cultural history of the region, sometimes acting as cautionary tales or explanations for the unknown.
Other Redditors share their own brushes with the uncanny, including stories of bloody fingers, the local lore of a haunted abandoned hospital with a ghostly figure potentially visible on Google Street View, talk about a modern twist on a haunting.
Visible on Street View? That's wild.
Right, and even a haunted tree in the middle of a McDonald's parking lot. It seems the supernatural can insert itself into the most ordinary of settings.
That really highlights how ghost stories can become attached to specific locations, even seemingly mundane ones, through local lore and shared experiences within a community.
One user recounted a persistent feeling of negativity associated with an old house in North Carolina, and another shared ongoing experiences in their own home that they firmly believe is haunted, with unsettling occurrences like dishes clattering and shelves mysteriously falling.
Sometimes, there's just an undeniable feeling that a place has a presence. Those personal, ongoing experiences can be particularly compelling, as the individuals are living with these unexplained phenomena on a daily basis.
We also heard about the goalie Fletcher. A local monster with glowing red eyes from the Chesterfield-Lancaster counties in South Carolina.
Golly Fletcher, never heard that one.
A chilling account of 3 distinct knocks at the back door. Shortly after a neighbor who always knocked that way passed away in a fire. The regional legend of Joe Baldwin, the Headless Brakeman.
Headless Brakeman classic.
And the fascinating and somewhat terrifying Cherokee legend of Spearfinger, a shape-shifting figure with a knife-like finger. Appalachian folklore is indeed rich with a diverse cast of both human and monstrous spirits.
The inclusion of Native American legends like Spearfinger really emphasizes the deep historical roots of the region's folklore and the long history of interactions between different cultures.
One particularly detailed account from Reddit focused on the old Ford farm in Bristol. This location apparently has a few spectral residents, including a tobacco man ghost.
Tobacco Man.
Yeah, the lingering presence of a young boy who tragically died after being hit by a car, and even a little girl ghost who has been seen running down the stairs. It sounds like a very active and perhaps even lively household in its own way.
The presence of multiple ghost stories associated with a single location often suggests a long history and perhaps multiple significant or tragic events that have occurred there. The discovery of a potential treasure map and doodles possibly belonging to the young boy adds a poignant and personal touch to his story.
And finally, from Reddit, a rather immediate and impactful personal experience. One user recounted how the power went out in their home mere seconds after they jokingly called out to a ghost boy in a house with a known history of a young boy's death.
Talk about a swift and perhaps not so coincidental response. That kind of seemingly direct and immediate reaction is often interpreted in paranormal circles as a sign that spirits are aware of and perhaps even interacting with the living.
Lyle S. Russell also shared some of his own personal paranormal experiences. These included more subtle occurrences in a previous house, like unexplained shadows and doors opening or closing on their own.
These more subtle and less dramatic events are actually quite commonly reported and can be just as unsettling for those who experience them.
He also recounted a distinct disembodied voice saying, "Get out," a phrase that was never heard again regularly.
This one.
Apparently. He also mentioned a mirrored medicine cabinet in his bathroom that would frequently open on its own after showers, and the unsettling incident of family photos being scattered, turned to face the wall, and even one flipped inside his frame following a difficult family day.
The interpretation of the photos being moved in response to family stress suggests a spirit that might have been sensitive to the emotional atmosphere of the house.
He also recounted phantom smells of sea breeze, astringent, and gardenia flowers in his great-grandmother's remodeled house, scents he strongly associates with her memory.
Phantom smells again. Very personal.
And finally, he noted that his cat Seymour would consistently react to something unseen in the same specific spot in the house. Our pets do often seem to be more attuned to things we cannot perceive.
Absolutely. The phantom smells, especially those strongly linked to a deceased relative, and the consistent reactions of a pet to an unseen presence are both compelling types of anecdotal evidence often considered in paranormal investigations.
Finally, we delve into a more modern and perhaps more locally specific legend, that of the Shelby Forest Pigman, originating in Shelby County north of Memphis, around the area of Neeman-Shelby Forest.
The Pigman. This more contemporary legend centers around the Chickasaw Ordnance Works power plant, a World War II-era facility that was notable for its 2 prominent smokestacks and a network of underground tunnels. The story goes that a worker at the plant survived a chemical explosion caused by him lighting a cigarette, but he suffered severe facial disfigurement, leading to a visage that resembled a pig's head.
Awful.
Shunned and ostracized by his family and friends due to his appearance, he reportedly sought refuge back at the abandoned factory and later lived under a bridge after it closed down. Over time, rumors began to spread, particularly among local children and teenagers, that this pigman was kidnapping and even eating children.
Just terrible rumors based on his appearance.
Exactly. There's some uncertainty in the local lore about which bridge he supposedly inhabited, with both Shakerag Road and Epperson Mill Road being mentioned. It's interesting to note that pigman legends, with variations on the details, exist in other states like Texas, New York, Georgia, and Vermont.
Really? Other pigmen?
Yeah, often associated with bridges and frequently targeting teenagers in the narratives. The Vermont version, for example, involves a missing teenager and sightings of a white-haired pigman or one wearing a pig's head mask.
It's a tragic story of an accident leading to social isolation and the subsequent creation of a frightening, almost mythical figure within the local community.
It truly is.
We also took a look at some of Chattanooga's most allegedly haunted locations, expanding beyond just the Reed House Hotel.
Yes, the historic Delta Queen riverboat is said to be haunted by the spirit of Mattie Green, Mary Becker Green, a former riverboat pilot who actually died on board. Her apparition has reportedly been seen, and her disembodied voice heard, particularly in cabin 109.
The Chattanooga Choo-Choo Hotel also has its spectral residents, with reports of a ghostly conductor, a porter, and even a Civil War soldier still making their presence known. Unexplained activity has also been reported in the hotel's Centennial Theater.
The Hunter Museum of American Art, built on land considered sacred by the Cherokee people and also the site of a Civil War battle, is said to be haunted by at least 5 different ghosts, including Augusta Hoffman, whose skull was tragically discovered during renovations.
A skull found during renovations. Good grief.
Other reported phenomena include sightings of Civil War soldiers, shadowy figures believed to be Cherokee members, orbs of light, cold spots, moving shadows, and unexplained noises.
John Brown's Tavern has a dark history associated with its namesake, Captain John Brown, who was known for his malevolent acts, and it's even rumored that his remains are within the building, contributing to the sense of unease.
Ross's Landing, a historically significant site along the Tennessee River, is believed by some to be haunted by the spirits of Cherokee people who were forcibly removed during the Trail of Tears, as well as victims of the devastating 1867 flood. Reports include experiencing sudden cold spots and hearing mysterious voices.
Finally, Bluff Furnace, located near the Hunter Museum, also has its share of spectral residents, linked to its industrial past and the murder of Augusta Hoffman in a nearby home. Her apparition is more frequently associated with the Hunter Museum, but the furnace itself is also said to be haunted by its former owner, George Thomas Hunter, and several other unidentified apparitions.
And finally, we touched upon a list of Tennessee's creepiest haunted locations, which highlighted several places we've already discussed in detail, along with some new additions.
Yeah, quite a list.
These included the Thomas House Hotel in Red Boiling Springs, known for its intense paranormal activity, the Grand Gaylord Opryland Hotel in Nashville, where an apparition is reportedly known to rattle the chandelier in the Magnolia lobby.
Rattling chandeliers, okay.
And the various Appalachian ghost walks that offer guided tours through the haunted histories of towns in East Tennessee. The list also included Elmwood Cemetery in Memphis, while not officially considered haunted, offers intriguing soul-of-the-city tours exploring its rich history.
Also, the old historic Harriman Hospital in Harriman, with tales of a nurse named Joanna and other unsettling phenomena. The notorious Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary in Petros, said to be haunted by the spirits of its former dangerous inmates.
Brushy Mountain. Yeah, that place has a reputation.
The historic Scott County Jail in Huntsville, the site of a sheriff's unsolved murder. The entire town of historic Rugby, considered by some to be haunted in its entirety. Wheatland's Plantation in Sevierville, with its grim legend of returning bloodstains.
Returning bloodstains.
Classic. The Lots House in Franklin, another location deeply tied to the Civil War. Oakland's Mansion in Murfreesboro, and several historic homes in Memphis, like the Woodruff Fontaine Mansion and the Mallory Neely House, each with their own tragic histories and resident spirits.
Even a haunted dive bar in Memphis, Ernestine and Hazel's, made the list, as did Ruby Falls in Chattanooga, which offers spooky lantern tours. It's clear from this extensive list that Tennessee has a wealth of locations with reported paranormal activity.
We hope you enjoy this deep dive into the ghostly tales of Tennessee. From historic hotels to Civil War battlefields and even personal encounters, the volunteer state certainly seems to have its share of spectral residents and eerie mysteries.
It's a fascinating glimpse into the way history, folklore, and the enduring human curiosity about the unknown intertwine to create these compelling narratives of the supernatural. Really makes you think.
If you like what you're hearing from us, please subscribe. Also, if you would like and share this video, it helps us tremendously and means so much to us. Please also leave a comment. We want to know what you think and value ideas you might have for future podcasts.
Yeah, let us know your thoughts.
Thanks for tuning in.